What? You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
Yeah, it's showtime again, and hate to say it, come Thursday, I'm up here kind of rather joyous and everything, and now I come to this show with the question from above. It's not exactly what you think it's going to turn out to be, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But for right now, let me say welcome to another edition of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee, and I hope that you have a very great weekend so far here. It is Saturday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, or a little bit after. It should be like 9:02 Central Standard Time. Everything is pretty much it's been kind of like a meh type of mode that I've been in. But the good thing about it is I've been to storage, verified that a couple of things here. Like for one, I finally found my Hulk #2. So for volume one of Hulk, and volume one of Hulk is the very first Red Hulk series. I finally have every last issue. I've verified that I have every last issue. Same thing that I could say for New Mutants Volume 3. I have every last episode there. And we already got comics. We got, oh, there's Victoria. Well, I want to get to that here. And the reason I'm kind of sad is just because I'm really debating if I should give up a few things here dealing with comics. It just, I'll explain once we get past the business end of things and some of the more happier type of stuff here in the bigger scheme of things here. So just stay tuned here. We're getting, I almost was jumping the gun here. Where was I? Where was I talking about? Yeah, the finding out that I have all of New Mutants Volume 3, all of the Red Hulk series, the actual Hulk Volume 1, I have all on because I finally found my issue #2, which is technically the first full appearance of Red Hulk in that series. Even though he was on the cover for issue 1, he wasn't fully into the story until issue #2. So that was kind of like the thing, and I knew I had it because I showed a couple of people what that book looks like, and it disappeared on me. And then I finally found it in storage and put it with all the rest of the 57 other issues that went with that series here. So it's a good thing to have that here. But before we get into the rest of the show here, you guys know what we got to do here. We got to do the business end of things here, letting you guys know that Stupid O'Clock happens 1 hour into the show. If we go into a second hour, that is then followed up by Last Man Standing, as always, at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then you get a respite until Monday. We have Nicholas Talkert and Nevermind the Furthermore on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, coming next Thursday, or this upcoming Thursday, we are going to talk about Birdman. Yes, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Birdman on Comic Book Spectrum, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be talking about Birdman. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that's geek culture related, television related, comic book related. But yes, this upcoming Thursday is our Birdman episode here. So with that being stated here, I'm going to leave it up to you guys here. Do you guys really want me to do new comic books for the week here? Because it's only a short bit of books here. Yeah, let's stick to tradition. We're going to stick to tradition. New comic book pickups for the week here. So this is what came in this week. Like I said, it's only but it's still something that's pretty decent here. So we finally got our Catwoman number 60. So that's one more into the volume 5 of having all of volume 5 here. I'm getting closer and closer of having all of volume 5 to the present here. And yep, there she's Tori said it. Yep, she wanted to see new comic books pickups here. So we got that one, and we got the so-called blank cover. What it really is the Bristol board version of Gen 13 number 1. For those who remember when Gen 13, the second volume of Gen 13 coming out here, this was the beginnings of how crazy variant covers got here. Gen 13 number 1, when it officially came out, had 13 different number 1 covers. This was one of them. And it's kind of weird in that aspect here. Did I get these out of order? Yeah, I got these out of order here. So we have the first, this is the official index to the X-Men. This is the first volume from volume 1, issue number 4. And I got issue number 5 from that series here. I still believe I'm missing like 1, 2, and 3, but I think that's the tail end of that series here. I finally got Spider-Woman number 3. I believe this is from the 2020 run of Spider-Woman, so that will probably either be volume 6 or 7. I believe it's more 7 than 6 here, but that's from 2020, Spider-Woman number 3. I had somebody pick up another copy of this, and this is a pretty decent copy of it, but this is Jaguar number 9. And for those who remember way earlier in the year, way earlier in 2024, I was collecting Jaguar all the way, the whole series and everything. And I finally did it here. And issue number 9 was one of the harder ones for me to find here. So that's another copy of that here. Just like this, I have another copy of Mr. Miracle number 2. I know I have this series completed here. This volume, Mr. Miracle, was only 6 issues here. So that was a good pickup here. And then I ended up getting a Wonder Woman 229 from volume 1. This is another copy of that here. This is a good pickup because this is one of the more sought after so-called bondage covers here. And again, people up there is like, well, it's a bondage cover because like look at her hand, she's bound. It's like that's not what bondage is really represented in Wonder Woman lore, but it is what it is. If people want to be literal, let them be literal. Then we got Amazing Spider-Man 166, where Spidey gets to fight the Lizard and Stegron, which is supposed to be a Stegosaurus type character. Yes, the Lizard and the dinosaur. So can't make this stuff up. And last but not least, it's not the best looking copy here, but it adds on to trying to complete this one. Something from my childhood and everything here. Oh, since you mentioned Spidey, that's not the best Spidey that I got. The best Spidey that I got so far, even though it's not the best copy of it, this is Spidey Super Stories number 2. So this is going back to the days of, if you remember, PBS and everything to that magnitude of the Electric Company. And we talked about Spidey Super Stories on Comic Book Spectrum, how Spidey Super Stories was an actual feature on Electric Company. And then shortly after it made its debut, they actually started doing comic books in conjunction with Marvel Comics because they had to get Marvel Comics approval to use Spider-Man's likeness for the TV show. So this series is kind of like been more or less my primer into the Spider-Man universe, more so than the 616 stuff. And that is pretty much all of the comic books that were sent this week here. There's more coming. There's actually more coming. I know one of the things that I know, we got like a 1940 something Tiger Girl that's coming in. It's like, I think it's Tiger Girl #1. It's a hard to find issue here. I got a giant sized creature one. Yes, a giant sized creature one coming in. That's supposed to be here soon. And for those who know what giant sized creature #1 is, that is technically the very first appearance of Greer Grant as Tiger. Not as the cat. She was no longer the cat. In this issue was her first appearance as Tiger. So that's coming in, and we got a whole slew of other stuff coming in. So that is comic book pickups for the week here. Now, let's. Oh, wait, hold on. It's like, yeah, I got Spidey Super. I get Spidey Super every time I get. Yeah, this, believe it or not, this is actually a nice, cool, but silly little series here, because these are actually pretty decent Spider-Man adventures, but they're not told in a serious soap opera type way like the like Amazing Spider-Man was. These were a little bit more lighthearted, and it actually features characters from the Electric Company series from time to time here. So it's nice in that aspect here. So as we move on here, I know the agenda for the show that we have it on in our show notes here is like, we're going to do new comic book pickups for the week. Accountability. I've been working. I actually picked up the pencil, but I'm going to need your guys' help again, because when I started picking up the pencil, I started picking up the pencil to start sketching more sketch covers here. I'm not certain if the blue line is getting picked up very well, but I started another one, and I got kind of like caught up. It's like, well, I don't know who Elisa should cosplay this time around. So if you got an idea as far as who Elisa should be cosplaying this time for this sketch cover, let me know. Shout it out in the chat here. I will try to make it happen here, because I still got a few more of these that I have to work on. Plus, to be quite honest with you guys here, I'm sitting on some blank covers even right now behind me here. Some of the blank covers I'm sitting on is like, there's Red Ronin. I have no idea what that character is. I got another 750, Wonder Woman 750 that I could draw on. I could probably end up doing a Fiona and Cake on this one, or a Jake and Finn on the Adventure Time here. I got a couple of the newer Birds of Prey here, so I might end up doing another big barter on one of these. We got a Wonder Woman #1. Oh, actually, two more Wonder Woman #1s. I got another Dazzler one, and it's not going to happen. I don't care too much for the character, but no, I'm not going to put a Harley Quinn on the Batman Adventures 12. And yes, this is a actual Batman Adventures 12. This is the facsimile blank version of it. But no, I'm probably not going to do a Harley Quinn or anything like that on that one here. I don't know what I'm going to do with that one, but I had another, like, I had a Dollar Comics version of that issue here, but it's always good to have something that is denoted as a copy of Batman Adventures 12 here. So, as I say, as fans of the show, let me know who Elisa Masters should cosplay as here. And if you're not familiar with the Amazonia series, what's taking you long to get familiar with it? It's one of the books that I make. Just go out to cgcstudios.com, find out more about it. But I kind of leave that in your hands here. Now, with that being said, it was like, yeah, I did that. Also, I did work on two other like 1.5 pages for one story for Legends of the Giantess Slayer here. That's one story here, and then the other story is that's being worked on here. These are more adult type stories here, but I got 4 pages of this out of the possible 6 to 8 done, and I got only about 1.5 done here. But work is being done. I'm still trying to keep up with everything here. I still need to finish up Primetime Saturday Night number 6. I am working on the first fight here. I'm still trying to figure out how it's going to flow here between Bootsy and Night Strike. And yes, this is the first time that Night Strike fights by herself, and we got the new and improved Bootsy fighting. So it's just more along the lines of trying to figure out how that fight, not figuring out, but getting the flow of that fight to fit what I'm trying to tell story-wise. And then from there, I think everything should flow a little bit better because everything else was pretty much mapped out pretty precisely and everything. So that is pretty much all the accountability and everything that was for this week. And like I always said, it's up to you guys to keep me accountable. Make certain that I'm actually still doing the work here, because if I'm not doing any comic book work or moving forward in any stories, it means that something's wrong in production, and it's just not a good thing here. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like a hand-in-hand thing here. I'm going to try to give you guys the best stories possible, but you also have to hold me accountable to say, hey, have you worked on something new this week? Or have you, wrote something down? Or have you did anything, work towards that ultimate goal here of having one of the greatest comic book series that was ever made? It's up to you guys here, to help me on that aspect while I do all the really legwork and the heavy lifting by getting the artwork done, getting the writing done, doing the yeoman's work, if I could say here. So with that being said, I guess it's time for us to have that chat. And I know a lot of you is up here saying, Joe, why do you feel like you need to give up comics here? I'm not giving up comics as far as creating. I'm not giving up comics as far as collecting. What I'm trying to really say is what I'm giving up on, I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to give up on the community. And it's sad. It's really sad because over this past week, and you guys know, it's I watch other YouTubers, I watch other people's Twitters and what they post and how they post, and seeing the landscape and everything. And we have some good talks about this type of stuff here. But this week, I saw a lot of disturbing stuff here that just makes me think it's maybe I'm a dying breed here. It seems like nobody's really out here being positive or talking about the things that they love. And those who are trying to do those things that they love, if for some reason it just comes off misinformative, it's just misinformation. Like yesterday, I saw a video talk, where the topic was, are comics still for kids? And I was like, okay, where are you going with this? And I started watching it. And my reaction was, they went and say, it's oh yeah, in the golden age, this, that, and the other, you had cheaper books and this, that, and the other, and kids were going and buy comic books and this, that, and the other, and I was wrong. If I was a football referee, I would have thrown a flag. It's flag on the play, misinformation, repeat, redo your video. The whole nature about comics being for kids was one of those things where it was the general populace shunning comics during that late end of the golden age. Comics originally was for everyone. It was an all ages thing. It wasn't targeted solely to kids. It was entertainment. It was reading entertainment. I don't understand why it's so hard for those who call themselves diehard collectors or have been collecting for decades to understand that before the Golden Age and Golden Age comics and all this other stuff, comics was a form of entertainment. Adults read it just as much as kids. It was on the newsstands just like magazines like Life and Time and whatever was the big magazines of the times. These things right here was considered, reading material, magazine, periodic reading material like a magazine. It shared the same livelihood, despite the fact that the stories were being drawn and illustrated and everything. Now, what ended up happening, and I'm glad that they got it somewhat right with how doctors and stuff went to Congress up under the whole thing about the controversy about the writing about the seduction of the innocent. They got that part right. But the major thing that they didn't get right is they say, well, comics are for kids. It's like, no, we need to get out that mentality. We need to start looking at it as the standpoint of educating people to say comics are not for kids. It really was an art form within itself that started off just like every other periodical magazine of yesteryear. These things sat on the same newsstands as Life magazine, Time magazine, Popular Mechanics, whatever sci-fi magazine was out there, whatever, Good Housekeeping magazine was out there. Comic books were sitting right next to them, right next to the newspapers, and everything's on those newsstands. It was a form of entertainment for all. As the years went on, as adults started to see the artwork and everything move towards something a little bit friendlier because of what happened with the hearings and everything, which eventually led to the Comics Code. Everything started to be more geared towards younger readers. Comics originally started out for everyone. More adults read comics than kids. This is one of the reasons why comics is the way that it is today, that you have more adults who still collect them as opposed to younger kids coming into the hobby. The reason why younger kids are not coming into the hobby as much is because there's not people like myself coming in saying, hey, this stuff is cool. Let me show you. Let me have that positive influence to get you to read stuff that will get your mind thinking a different way. Now, before people up there, it's like, well, we got anime and manga. It's like, well, manga is comics too. I don't care if it's from Japan. I don't care if it's from Timbuktu. I don't care if it's from Dublin. A comic is a comic is a comic. The whole fact of the matter is, because of what's currently out there with YouTube and social media and everything, I believe more kids are turned off to the negativity that is being portrayed in American style comics, and they see more of the positivity that's out there with the manga and everything to that magnitude here. And Tori is saying, yeah, the community is toxic. Why I rarely post comic stuff on my channel. I mean, I do once, but they're mostly about picking on people and I'm picking on the machine. Yeah. And that's the thing, I'm seeing a lot more YouTubers out here. The ones that are trying to keep the community positive, I feel like they're getting a lot of misinformation, and a lot of the misinformation is not on their 100% their fault. This is what they experience. And a lot of times they need to be more, if I could say, in tune to what others are doing. I get to the point where I wish I could say how I truly feel, but it's just more along the lines. It's like when it comes to the collecting aspect of it, the people who are out here that are doing content are so splintered that it's ridiculous. Is it toxic? Yes and no. Is it not friendly to one another? No, not necessarily, but it is rather toxic for those who are have already made up their mind what things are and how things should supposed to go when you have other people experiencing the complete opposite. And it just very very weird in that aspect. That's why manga is king. Yeah, because again they're up here trying to say, well, comics is for kids. It's like, no, if comics was really for kids, then what is left for the adults? If more people over the age of 30 still buying comics, and the average, if I could even say 8, 9, or 10-year old not even thinking about that, let alone maybe spend 10 to 15 bucks to pick up a volume of their favorite manga story, which again, average comic book maybe 16 pages worth of story, average manga volume over 100 something pages of story. They went out, they win the money battle. And on top of that, we got so many different publishers that went from caring about telling good stories to making the books collectible, meaning that they took the standpoint of how people see collectibles and made comics more into that, fit more into that mold, instead of, hey, we're telling the greatest stories ever told here, come and read them, come and read them, partake in them, enjoy this form of entertainment. That's not happening now. It just nothing is going the way that it's supposed to here. And it's just weird in that aspect here. I see a kid in the comic or secondhand bookstore like, ooh, a unicorn. Yeah, they don't appear like, well, I don't really want to know about the story of Spider-Man. They're like, oh, cool, a unicorn. I wonder if there's a good unicorn story. American comics don't have that. But I bet you manga does. I bet you somewhere over in Japan they do, or even over in Europe they definitely do. But here in the States, no. But yet here in the States, what people want to haggle over is like, oh, CGC is in trouble now because they're not giving out a whole bunch of 9/9s and 10s like like PSA is. It's like, who gives a care? Why are you, not to talk bad about those who collect based upon investment, but some of the content that's out there that's really bashing grading companies, that's really saying books should be raw and not graded and vice versa and all this other stuff, that's a form of toxicity that's just really really shouldn't be. It shouldn't even be. I mean, if you're getting your books graded to increase the value of it, that's one thing. To complain about the grade is a whole nother standpoint, because one, you don't have to go to that company to get it graded. Two, you could probably get the same amount of money as a raw, if the book was raw. You just have to know your buyers. And that's one of the things that really ticks me off business wise when it comes with the investors. I'm going to buy this book when it's very, very low, get it graded, keep my fingers crossed that I get a 9.8, 9.9, 10, or 10, and then triple the price and hope that I could find some pigeon to buy it at that price. Knowing good and well, if you did find that one-off pigeon, that you screwed up the fair market value for said book before its time. And then with publishing companies treating their books like collectibles now, you got manufactured rarity. So not only is the publishers adding on to the manipulation of fair market value, now you're trying to double dip in that manipulation. And that's just not a good look. And mind you, I'm not just picking on collectors. I'm also going to talk about creators as well. Where, like I said, I still feel that there's room for everybody at the table here. But one of the things that I get so irritated about is that, especially with creators here in the States, we're getting too copycatish. Nobody is really developing their storylines, their titles, and everything the way that it should. Everything is getting developed in such a way where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell this 4-issue or 6-issue story and hope that I could get an option before I tell the rest of it. And it's like, no. Tell the story for the love of the story. Don't tell the story just because you think it's an inroad to get somewhere else. Don't worry about sometimes the overall artwork or everything to that magnitude on the first couple of issues. You need room to grow. Everybody is worried about all these things to be like the thing that came before it that is popular, when you need to develop it to stand on your own. These are the types of things that makes me want to give up on comics as far as the community is concerned. Because if everybody was doing the exact same thing, we wouldn't have any development in storytelling. We wouldn't have any innovation as far as what is the next plateau to reach. We're getting pretty much the same thing over and over and over again, it retold in such a way where it's like instead of being on white pages, it's being told on yellow. Who cares? We just need to start developing stories and universes that are more in depth, where people can dive into it and crave it more. We don't need copycat horror stuff. We don't need copycat, suits and capes type stuff. Think a little bit outside the box. Maybe, in this, and this is like my personal gripe. And I wish people would understand why my personal gripe was one of the things that I kind of yelled to the mountaintops here. We need to get away from limited series or shortened series just for the sake of money purposes. We need to develop ongoing series. It takes a lot longer to develop them. And that's one of the things that really gets me upset, because I will have like a fellow creator that was like, hey, I got this story idea, I've been working on it, this, that, and the other. And you'd be like, oh wow, that sounds great, this, that, and the other. And it's like, it's going to be a 6-issue series, this, that, and the other. And they give you a little bit more of it, and they tantalize you, they kind of tease you with it, and then they tell you about one aspect of it that is like, why are you making this a 6-issue series? And they look at you straight, it's like, what do you mean? It's like 6 issues should be more enough to tell the story. It's like, that one concept that you're developing makes it an ongoing series. You're cheapening your story by limiting it to 6 issues. Now, mind you, you don't know if you got a hit on your hands or not. And I get this. I can see you going out there and saying, hey, I'm going to put out the first story arc, which is 6 issues. If after those 6 issues are done, I'll come out with an issue 7. and people like it and still like it, I make that issue 7. But to say it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to create 6 books and that's it, and then find out after the fact that it's like everybody loves it, now you got to go back to start from square one because you didn't make it an ongoing series. Because when you go back to square one, now you have to rehash what happened in the first 6 series when you come back out with that story, the storyline 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years after the fact you create those 6 issues, instead of just letting it flow contiguously. Now, like I said, this is just me thinking more like an editor publisher, as opposed to, people who just, trying to get their feet wet into the industry. Now, I can understand if the story is told in 6 and you have everything encompassed in those 6 issues, more power to you. I'm all for it. But it's been too many creators that have very, very great ideas. Their concept is there, but they're cheapening their concept because, oh, I'm afraid to make it an ongoing series just because of this down here. I'm afraid that I can only put 2 issues out of the 6 of the story arc. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. So it's just how the community, doesn't really come together in that aspect here. I rather stay positive because, like I said, I have 3 series about to become 4. All 4 series are ongoing. I'm almost at the point where I'm really so tempted to go to the printers with Legends of the Giantess Slayer to have it ready for C2E2 next year. That, it's just like there's no looking back. But I'm doing that with possibly having 3 issues already in the tank ready to go, as opposed to, well, let me see what this 1 issue is going to do first. This is in addition to working on Primetime Saturday Night number 6, Amazonia 8, and really need to get back to AWF number 5, because that one has been suffering for the longest time here. And even because of the time frame that has been, I could technically think about going back to Kickstarter for something like that, but I don't know. I just have to feel, really feel how I feel about that here. But there's not enough positivity out there. There's not enough creativity out there. Everybody wants to do an offshoot of what has been done before. Everybody don't want to be that standout anymore. Everybody wants to be just like the average other person or collector and all this other stuff here. If you don't like Spider-Man, it's okay not to like Spider-Man. If you don't want to get Hulk 181 and 180, that's perfectly fine. Like what you like, love what you love, read what you want to read. You don't have to fall into, oh, if you're not collecting this, then you're not a part of X, Y, and Z. Or if you're not writing about X, Y, and Z and putting these type of political type statements into your work, it's like, no, don't worry about those negative people. Tell the best stories that you want to tell. Read the stories that you want to read. Start talking about why you like it. I tend to watch a lot more YouTube content from comic book collectors and creators that talks, hey, I really like this. I really like how this is going. I don't want, it's not about, liking and loving everything, because some stuff some stuff just have to be talked about, especially if it's messed up. But there needs to be more positivity out there. I shouldn't have to turn on, where like some of the top comic book YouTubers are sitting up here talking about, oh, CGC bad, and all the videos of that's from there. It's like CGC is bad, PSA is a little bit better, PSA books are not selling as much. Oh, people should not, like, graded books are falling apart, and this, that, and the other. Oh, there's another controversy at CGC because the case are buckled. Or, oh, this book is trash and garbage because it talked about this political aspect, or you know, there's too many concepts about equity and inclusion here. It's like, you know, these characters need to have like their own mantles and blah 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 blah. It's like, but where's the stuff that people like? You always want to talk about all the bad things that the bigger companies are doing. Where's the stuff that the small guys are doing? The little bitty small publishers like myself are doing. How come you're not highlighting them and getting people off the bandwagon of, oh yeah, Marvel and DC need to be doing better, but what if little Johnny Comics is doing something that is spectacular and you love it, and you're not talking about them, you're not giving them the shine that they deserve. They need just as much shine as everybody else. Heck, start the bandwagon to get people to start reading their books. That was the whole purpose of Comic Book Spectrum. It's like, it was too much negativity out there. People got together and started talking about the books that they loved. New Comic Book Day comes in and we pick up books and everything, and next thing you know, it's like, oh man, you need to read this. Now, in the very beginning, because like I said, I wasn't part of the original 4 that started Comic Book Spectrum. My criticism to them was the reason why I got more involved in it, and they pulled me in. And that criticism was, it's like, you guys are doing a great job, but I'm not a horror fan. Can you guys find some type of a horror story that a person like me who likes this, and this could get into? I put a challenge out to them, and they challenged me back. It's like, go ahead and try to find, find a book that we might like. Since we like more horror, it's like, you're definitely more superhero type stuff. Find something that we like, and we exchanged, and we had that positive exchange. And lo and behold, I became Pete Best out of the Beatles here, out of the Beatles that we call Comic Book Spectrum. And it worked out because it solidified a friendship and a kinship where I felt like, even though they're talking about horror comics, at least I feel a part of that, because of the simple fact that, hey, they're actually trying to get me to partake in what they love. Just like when I come back with books such as Birds of Prey or whatever female-led comic book here, I got them to read more stuff like that. I got them to read more sports-led books. I got them to read like stuff like Do a Power Bomb, stuff to that magnitude. And these are, the reasons why the community, if it's built like that, gets strong. Because we're sharing what we love. We're not holding it to ourselves. We're not talking about how such and such is doing it wrong. Except for what was it? The recent Checkmate that came out. Now that was bad. You said Birds of Prey, yeah. A lot of the stuff that I collect are slowly getting canceled. Now, that's another thing, that reason why I want to give up on comics. It's sad that a lot of women-led titles get canned before they need to. Birds of Prey is one of them. Now, they could say sales all they want. They could say all this other stuff all they want. But again, you got all these other male titles that's been doing a lot worse than them. But they hope and they bank on that with all these so-called male-led titles that, it's just going to be cyclic. We just probably did a bad storyline. Now we're going to do this when we're going to hope that the fan base comes back. Unlike with fan base for like Birds of Prey. We've been there from the very beginning to the very end. Sales don't drop because of one storyline. You're canceling us because nobody else is picking up on it than what they consider the handful of people who love it. Same thing with Storm. Storm got canceled. I was sad about that. I was sad about how She-Hulk got canceled. Sad about that. One of the things that I wish that would have got canceled, or at least they would have stopped it and got another creative team. You know whose version of Wonder Woman I wish would have got canceled and they got a new creative team, but it's going on because why? There's still an uptick of male readership. I mean, I could go on and on and on because it's like you have how many? It's like you had what within 20 from 2024 to 2020 to now, you had things like I believe it was two Kamala Khan series got canceled. Storm got canceled. Birds of Prey about to get canceled again. You had another Spider-Woman book that got canceled. I mean, I just don't know what it is. And to be quite honest, we got too many Venom books. We got too many Spider-Man related books. We got too many Batman related books. But yet, Birds of Prey going to get canceled. Wouldn't it be surprising that sooner or later Catwoman gets canceled again? I wouldn't put it past that here. I wouldn't put it, we about that in the latest mini series dealing with Fire and Ice is about to come to an end. We're not going to get another Nubia series here. I still don't like what they did with Yara Flor. I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, but that's being negative. But the reason I'm upset about it because I love what they did with these stories. And I could tell you why these stories are so good compared to all their male counterparts. Because sometimes what's happening in a lot of the male counterpart books are rehashing and retelling with a different spin on it. It's really nothing new up under the sun except for how the story is being told here. See, Tori is like, yeah, everything I collect gets canceled except for Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. Yeah. Well, I'm still waiting for the other shoe to fall on a certain person's run of Wonder Woman. But like I said before, because of that uptick in male readership, I don't think that's going to happen because he's writing more so for that audience than the audience that was really there for Wonder Woman. But because of that, I have my absolute Wonder Woman, which I truly adore. I truly adore Absolute Wonder Woman. And if they cancel Absolute Wonder Woman, I truly would be sad. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, Magic was another one that got canceled. I mean, I just don't know what it is about that. I agree. But the thing about it here is this. And even if you even when you think about, especially with Magic, what they did with this series of Magic. They started something that really caught lightning in a bottle. But because they're going more so with, well, the sales are not there, the variant covers are not selling well, we cannot make this into a collectible type item, we're going to cancel it. Same thing with this here. people are up here like, no, it's not a collect, it's like it's not gaining a mass populace and everything, and it's not becoming a collectible item despite having variant covers such as this. People are just not buying that 1 in 100 and 1 in 50 the way that they should be. Therefore, we might have to can it because we could probably put more money into a Venom 1 in 1,000 and make our money that way. But nevertheless, it's the nature of the marketing game that they're playing with comic books now that just doesn't make any sense to me, even at this juncture of the game, even as a small press publisher. Yeah, when I look at this type of stuff, it makes me want to give up on the community because it's like we get outraged for the wrong stuff. I mean, people would get outraged for a television representation of our comic book characters, but they won't get outraged enough to be like, why are you canceling this book when people are truly enjoying it? You pouted for it's nothing really to truly pout about, but it's one of those things that it's like, well, I know over several decades of me collecting here, I see those trends. Like one moment, your favorite character falls out of favor, they disappear for a while, or they might be a part of another team for a bit, and then every so often it's like, okay, we're going to test the waters again, we're going to put out a new series for that character, and I'm like, I'm on board. You have to think about it. We have survived what, 6 or 7 She-Hulk series. Let me think about that. Is it 6 or 7? Savage, Sensational Volume 1, Hulk Volume 3, She-Hulk, Sensational Volume 2. So 5, and that's not including all the mini series such as the new Savage She-Hulk dealing with Lyra She-Hulks, where it's Jennifer and Lyra, the one shots, Sensational, the two graphic novels, Ceremony, let alone the Marvel graphic novel number 9 of She-Hulk that John Byrne did. I'm not counting all those. I'm talking about only the ongoing series. So we survived 5 of them. I wouldn't be surprised that they come back out with another She-Hulk series probably within the next 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't be surprised here. Heck, we already at wait, is this 7 or 8? I know the last volume I actually collect Spider-Woman was volume 7. Of those, only 2 volumes of it was not Jessica Drew. Volume 2 was Julia Carpenter, and I forgot. I think it was Mayday Parker that was volume 3. So we survived seven of at least 7 for Spider-Woman, of which 6 of them was Jessica Drew. We had at least 2 volumes of The Thing, Ben Grimm thing. At least 2. I believe it was at least 3 of them that was ever published, but I only recognize the first 2. No, the third one was a mini series. I believe that was a short mini series, like a 4-issue mini series, if I'm correct here. But this is volume 4 of Storm. So like I said, all these volumes come, they come and go and everything here. Birds of Prey, I think this is going to be like the 5th volume of Birds of Prey, because the original Birds of Prey had volume 1, volume 2, this current volume, No, no, because it's 4 volumes of Birds of Prey, and then you had Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, and then you had a graphic novel run of Birds of Prey. So it's been 6 Birds of Prey, at least 6. But it's sad. It's just sad that, it's not because it didn't have staying power. It's just because somebody in the marketing department feels that they cannot make it work. So it gets canceled. Not because, and a lot of times it's not really because of sales. Perfect example, Wonder Girl Volume 2, dealing with Yara Flor. Everybody keeps saying that, oh, because the CW TV show didn't come to fruition, we lost Yara Flor. Wrong. We lost that Yara Flor series, comic book wise, for 2 things here. One, their marketing department felt that Yara was not catching enough eyes. And 2, the creative teams were so unpredictable that they could not keep up with a schedule. Everybody loved that Volume 2 of Wonder Girl. But yet now they're up here trying to push Trinity down our throat, and I believe that Trinity not going to have any legs to stand on. The Fire and Ice miniseries where they went to space. I don't know if it's any good or not. I still got to pay for my issues here through my local comic book vendor, but I'm going to read it, and I'm going to eventually find out if it's good or not. I gave up on Red Sonja a long time ago because they're not really doing anything new with Red Sonja. Dynamite really hasn't done much of anything. And then the one series that I did love, Red Sita, the so-called adopted daughter, they canceled it in favor of Samurai Sonja and Immortals Red Sonja. You can't make this stuff up. And even what's even more weird, I collect AC Comics Film Force. Since Diamond is no longer, most comic book stores can't get them because of the distributor that they have, and a lot of these comic book stores do not want to use the distributor that they have left, just for people who want Film Force. It is what it is. Well, here's the problem. Since we're going to talk about a little bit more about Trinity, I really don't have a problem with Trinity if they would go ahead and develop her as a character. Little bitty kid Trinity, this is how I feel. Make that an all ages book. People will love her. That's how you make Trinity popular. Tell more of her stories as a kid. Her as an adult, she's a boring character. There's nothing about her that makes anybody like her. She's boring. They haven't told any good story using Trinity as an adult. As a little bitty kid, it's excellent. That's how you get, your 5, your 6, your 7, your 8, and your 9-year-olds start liking that character, and you can build from there. You can build the same type of wonderment that people had for like Billy Batson as Shazam, or AKA the original Captain Marvel from back in the day. That door was opened the day that they started doing all those backup stories. Not as her as an adult, but as a kid. They open that door and they won't walk through it because why? Marketing probably feels that, targeting little kids like that won't make them money. It does not make it collectible enough. again, why, these are the types of things that makes me want to give up, because you see good things that could happen. You could even project the trends and everything, and who would pick up on it, who would not pick up on it, and look at it and be like, okay, DC, why didn't you do it? Oh, now I see why you didn't do it, because you can't bank on the likelihood of 9, 10, 11, 12 year olds begging their parents to buy them the Trinity books. That's, to me, is a comment about how bad your marketing is. That you're relying on that 30 to 35-year-old with the income to still buy that 1 in 100 and 1 in 250, or the 1 in 500, or 1 in 1000, or the one per store, more so than creating a fan for a lifetime that always might want to pick up a Trinity book. Yeah, it's like that. It really is. And Tori loved the child version of Trinity all day, be every day. But and she even says it's like the adultery, and never read it at work, and that's my major problem with Trinity. That's the reason why I love Yara so much, because Yara's story starts with her as a kid, with this so-called tribe, with the so-called mystical tribe that she doesn't, that she really doesn't remember all that much, other than the fact that she was from it. And then when she finally came back to Sao Paulo, all this stuff started happening, and she finally came into her destiny. It was a romp that started way back in Future State, and finally hit fruition when we finally got Wonder Girl Volume 2. Even better, Diana dubbed her the new Wonder Girl during the whole not Amazon's attack, during the whole Trials of the Amazons, at the very end of it. Now, after all of that, you cancel her series. All the stuff that happened in the Trials of the Amazons, Artemis wanting, all this other stuff kind of went to the back burner because of what you guys did with Donna DC. Nobody trusts superhumans anymore. Right. That's going to be a good story to tell to make people want to get back into comics? Or is it the right type of story to tell to be like, oh, nobody want to read what's inside of it, we're going to have the greatest artists to create all these different covers, and we're going to sell it based upon that? If that's the case here, only thing I could tell these artists is like, stop being used for artwork, make certain you get bigger paycheck, because if you're not going to keep the actual artwork for, well, again, it really depends on if they do this stuff digitally or not, because if it's done digitally, then there's no money on the table anyway. But if they still use the old Bristol board stuff, that Bristol board that you're giving over to them is worth more money than anything else. But it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. And I'm not really going around being like sour grapes or anything, but I constantly ask myself, why should I put up with this here? Even today was kind of like rough. It's like, I don't want people to think that I'm giving up on creating comics or collecting what I love, but I also don't want them to think that, oh, he's going to be slowly backpedaling or on what he gets and how he gets it and all this other stuff. It's like, no, not really that either. Because one of the things that I've been doing as of late, and I can't do that with modern books, but I can do it with older books. Those comic book vendors that I do know that know me for a long period of time, I have been recently coming back to them. It's like, what's a good series that I should collect that's in my wheelhouse of interest? Someone will look at me kind of strange and be like, you really don't like the stereotypical stuff. So they have zero clue. Only a handful will be like, you know what? Let me get back to you on that because of your taste, you will be a awfully hard fit for a lot of different series that are currently out there. But for a lot of the older stuff, I have to really think about it because and they say they haven't visited these series in a long time. So they up here was like, I don't want to say this unless I have gone back and reread it myself to make certain that, yeah, this is something that's right up your alley. Again, coming back to that positivity, they're willing to share things that they have come across and love that fits my interest, as opposed to be like, oh, you don't like most of the stuff that we got anyway, so we can't help you. To have a love of comics is really to have a love of comics here. And that's one of the reasons, why, like I said, should I just give up on the community? Should I just give up and just be like, you know what they are? Or should I still stay the course and show love where love is needed? Highlight those books. One of the major complaints that I got from other creators over the last couple of years, and I still stick by my decision to stop doing interviews. It's not because I don't care about other creators. Far from that. It's just that I don't see the benefit of always being the interviewer and not being the interviewee. If you get my drift here. I don't see the benefit of being the interviewer if it's taken away from me telling about other things that's going on in the comic book industry or showing what I'm doing in the industry. I don't see the benefit of it if I'm going out my way to help you, but you don't have the time to help me. Like I said, the community has to be a community. Just as much as we can help one person or multiple people, those same people who ask for the help have to come back around and help others themselves. And that's, what really got me out of the whole interviewing aspect of all these different independent creators, because we all trying to build our own audience and everything, and we don't have a problem sharing our audience. By no means we don't have. Matter of fact, we still got places like the Indie Comics Network or the Madness Comic Network. We got a lot of different places. It's like people know I used to be a part of the Rising Tide. There's a lot of networks that are out there of like-minded creators. But even with that being so, there's a lot more creators that's outside of your normal social circle that would take advantage and be like, you help me, but no, you can't do, I can't do for you. It's like, but how are you going to be a part of the community, the overall community, when you're not willing to help, where it's only one-sided? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That's another reason why I don't really do panel shows anymore. It's because there's not going to always be equal billing. And then on top of that, it's always going to be about said topic where people are going to have like-minded experiences. We're never going to really expose the differences of opinions the way that it's supposed to be, or really talk about the difference of experiences in the true light that it needs to be brought out in. Again, if it's supposed to be about a matter of learning from one another, let's learn from one another. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, it's one thing to be like, keep your head down, mind your business, to get your books and stuff out here. But when you come back to the bigger scheme of things, when it comes to developing your audience, we have to realize it truly is a shared audience. The one person that may love this show may love Comic Tom, and they may love Bryce Comics. They might like Reggie Collects. They might like, you know, the Mint Hunter Comics. They might like Havens for Heroes. They might like all the different shows over there at Madness Comic Network. They might like all the shows at Indie Comic Network. That's all fine and dandy. But you have to understand, it's that shared audience. We have to be mindful that it is shared. I can't manipulate. I can't modify or manipulate a shared audience. But now, by knowing that it's a shared audience, one thing I could do is provide the positive, reinforcing, positive aspect of what I see is good out there, and hope that they enjoy it as well. I can't make them enjoy it. I can't make them dislike anything either. So if I had like a bad experience with a particular issue of a book, I just have to say, hey, this one issue is bad, but if you love it, keep reading it. Because it's not my job to stop you from loving what you love. It's not my job to call out a company for producing crap that you may enjoy. Only thing I can do is keep you going that path to enjoying what you love. So if you love Batman, keep collecting Batman. And as you guys already know, if it ain't Thomas Wayne, I ain't really paying too much attention to it. But I'll take that back. If it ain't Thomas Wayne and it ain't composite Superman, I ain't really paying too much attention to it. It's just, it is what it is. Those are just the two Batman like characters outside the villains. I still like Catwoman. I still like Catwoman. Still collect Catwoman here. I do like Gotham City Sirens. I might pick up a Mr. Freeze series every now and then if they ever come out with another one. But the Adventures of Bruce, I could deal without him. Not to say that he's a bad character or the title's bad or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. Now, I will say this, because of Lois Lane, because of random issues of Jimmy Olsen, I'm slowly going back to wanting to get the King Superman issues from back in the day. So Superman is slowly coming back to my attention span. Now, mind you, back in the day, I used to collect Supergirl. I fell off of that. She's like, meh. But there's always going to be something that's out there that's going to catch your eye and catch your attention, and you want to end up loving it. And you shouldn't be deterred from loving it. And, that's what makes me feel that, either way, if I become that defender of helping people love what they need to love or what they love the most, so be it. Even if it goes against what the community wants, so be it. If it gets to the point where I walk away from the community and be like that curmudgeon that eventually I'm probably going to end up becoming, just like how sometimes people describe Neil Adams when it comes to like the actual work that goes into production, so be it. It's just, it is what it is here. And I know that a lot more of you out there probably feel that crunch that I am, as far as should I give up comics? Because it's not because you don't feel like there's a place for you. It's more along the lines that you just feel like you just don't feel fit in anymore. Like, the if I could say the newer breed or the newer generation is slowly kind of making their inroads to kind of pushing you out. And that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm getting pushed out. That the love and stuff that I have is still there, but you're not, you're not a part of popular opinion, so therefore you're an enemy. It's like, no, I'm not an enemy. I could either help you reinforce your argument or destroy it altogether. But the major thing here is I know what I love and I know how I love it. And I believe you know exactly how you love what you love and how you love it. Why don't we talk about that more often than what is wrong with everything? Why don't we talk about that more often than how the prices of books or the value of books are yo-yoing like no tomorrow? It's been a long time since we had anybody that's like out here truly discussing what's going on in the next issue of said books. And for those YouTubers that do it, they're getting buried by all the negativity. The only way that those content or those videos get propped way up, we have to go out there and like them. We have to go out there and watch them. We got to go out there and support them. But the likelihood is that it's not going to happen because why? We're more, for some reason, there's a lot more people that's ticked off. And when I say a lot more, I'm talking about community wise. There are a lot more people ticked off that their copy of Ultimate Fallout 4 has dropped like from like $2,000 to barely 500. That's the nature of overinflation. That's the nature of FOMO taking over the market value. That's going to happen. Be a collector long enough, you know that's going to happen. But the bigger scheme of things here, little Johnny, little Melissa, little Lisa, little Bart, little Joe, little Emmy needs that next person to be like, hey, have you read the next issue of such and such? I know this is that this book may have a little bit more of an adult tell to it, but it's cool because that's fine, and I won't go into that aspect. But the character is cool because of this, to help them to become the next fan. Nobody's doing that anymore. I wonder why. Maybe I need to get back to telling people why I love writing about Elisa. I need to get back to telling people why I love writing about Primetime Saturday Night. And eventually we're going to get to that point with Legends of the Giantess Slayer. But that one would be a little bit more difficult because, like I said, that is definitely a very heavily adult themed book. That's not for little bitty kids. I know. I just don't know what else I can say here. But I leave it up to you. Because like I said, I brought the question to you. Should I give that aspect up? Or should I continue on? It's one thing to be the voice of reason, but it's also a different thing of being a heretic too. I don't want to be the heretic. But if I'm that voice of reason and I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling because of the way things are just now, and it's just it's just like one of those things that it's like, hey, give it like another 2 years and everything be back to normal where you feel like you're part of something bigger again. Tell me. But it is what it is here. So I'll leave the door open to you guys here. what should I do? What should I really do? Because that's the way I feel as of right now. Well, it was like if I do step away from that, that would mean that From the Desk would be a lot shorter because I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care about a lot of the topics that's being talked about now. I probably stopped caring about why things are getting canceled. It's sad. It's really sad where you can't come in and talk about the stuff that you love and why you pick up the books that you pick up, and then having those things that get canceled and then it's like everybody wants to dominate about, oh yeah, PSA is the way to go to get your stuff graded. I was like, why? Just because you had a bad experience does not necessarily mean I had a bad experience. I'm up there, it's like everybody's making a big deal like PSA should be the king. I was like, why? We had CBCS for the longest time, which have been doing a great bang up job, being a good competitor for CGC. CGC, even through its ups and downs, they find a way to stay at the top. I'm not just going to give another grading service to Crown just because they're giving more 9/9s and 10s out. That to me should be almost like a question mark red flag as far as what is the difference between their grading standards and all of these other grading companies that came before it. Are you wanting PSA to take the crown because you're trying to manipulate the market? Or are they really that accurate? That's when crickets you hear crickets. And when I hear stuff like that, I now get to the point where it's like people are just being selfish again because that's what they want. It's not because of the love of the company, it's what they want. They're trying to manipulate the values to make themselves feel better instead of just buying the books because you love it. It's come back to that argument that I said a long time ago here about what I said about cover collectors. No, I'm not going to roast cover collectors, and I'm not going to say anything that they shouldn't be a part of the community. They are very much a part of this community wholeheartedly. But what I do say, I stick by. And the one thing that I said that pretty much cover collectors is pretty much a poor man's art collector. And what I mean by that is like because there's no more Bristol board. Work is not being done on Bristol board like it used to be done. More and more stuff is being done digitally. There's nothing out there for them to collect. They can't get the original art page anymore. And then the original art page from back in the day are getting so harder to find because either it's in some company's archive or they've been, here, there, and everywhere, and nobody really knows who really owns the rights to sell them. It might be a part of a creator's estate. It might be a part of the publisher's archive. It might be already sold to somebody who don't know what they actually got. I mean, it is what it is. So, with these modern day cover collectors, it's pretty much essentially that they're just a poor man's art collector, poor man's comic art collector. It's easier for them to get that 1 in 100 or 1 in 50 or 1 in 200, 1 in 1,000, one for a store and be happy with that because they're buying it for the art. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the reason why I said they are just as much as part of the community as everybody else here. But because of the way and the day and age that we're in, it's sad. It's just sad that they can't get what they truly want, which is that old school Bristol board page of art that is a one of one, the original. And Even though, back in the day, those price tags used to be very, very cheap. Now it's, upwards four figures per page now. I mean, it kind of is what it is, depending on the artist that you're looking at. But it's just, when you look at everything, it's almost like, can you stay positive? Can you still give everybody that glimmer of keep loving what you love? And if it seems like, I started this whole conversation off with bashing other YouTubers, it really wasn't that, but it's just the nature of everything that's out there, the content that is out there right now, what people are seeing that is more important. It just makes me question, why are the few and far between who's trying to keep it positive struggling so much to try to make new fans? Not fans of us, but fans of the genre. I'd rather be up here trying to get people to become fans of things like Dakota North than to talk bad about how DC is dropping the ball with a lot of different their titles. I'd rather take my time to get people to relook at, the original Secret Wars than to talk about how Marvel is just losing their mind with canceling the number of titles that they've been canceling as of late. The stuff that I want to talk about brings more people to those titles and books than making them want to be turned off to the genre as a whole. But like I said, I leave it to you guys here. What do you guys think here? I'm about to shut up here, unless you guys don't have too much to say beyond that. We'll probably call it a night here. I know Tori's out there, listening and everything here. But what do you guys think here? Am I off my rocker, wanting to give up, or like I said, maybe it's just the age that we're in right now. Give it another 6 months to a year, or give it another 2 to 5 years. Everything would be probably back to the way that I'm accustomed to, where more and more people are happy and positive about what they're reading, as opposed to what's really bad out there. I'm so tired of content being like Chicken Little talking about the sky is falling when I'm up here. It's like, no, we should be in another Renaissance age, because the smaller guys are looking at what's being put out there, and we could be as inventive as anything else, and we could put out some great stories. We just need to start talking about it. We need to start talking about what we love and why we love doing what we're doing. But I don't know. Since it seems like no one else is really having anything much to say, I haven't had another comment in quite some time here. I'm probably going to bid you guys adieu here. So, on that note, unless there's any other comments for you, unless you got questions, like go ahead with questions too, because I'm here to answer questions as well. But that's what we probably need to have. We probably need to have another Ask Joe session sometime soon too, here on From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. We haven't had one of those in a long while, and those are fun because not too many things is off the table when we do the Ask Joes when it comes to comic books related stuff. Nothing is really off the table per se. But it looks like there's no other comments, nobody else is really saying much of anything here. So if you are watching this on the replay, let me know what you think. Should I give up? Should I not as far as creating or collecting, but should I give up on the community? Because I just don't know what to make of it as of right now. It's so splintered that it just almost like I just feel like I just don't fit in anymore. Just the way that it is. But anyway, since there's not too much more to say here, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Live life, grow and be well. For those who are on the East Coast, you got about another 30 minutes before you're into the future or into Sunday. For everybody else, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. We are out for another week here. I'll see you guys here next Saturday for From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. Hope that you have a very great week. And I hope that I see you guys on Thursday as well. Bye.